and you observe large swings. The most recent low point occurred in October of 2022. We have essentially witnessed a significant increase in liquidity for the past 2.5 years, 2.5 years, and 2.75 years. Most likely, there is yet more to go. But like all cycles, they come to an end, and that's the problem we need to start considering. Because, without a doubt, we're toward the end of the cycle. In general, equities markets perform exceptionally well during an upswing in the liquidity cycle, especially throughout the midst of the upswing. We have been in that stage, and that is it. Commodity markets typically see a bid as the cycle approaches its climax, and I would contend that's more in line with current events. Michael Howell is the source of the brand new information we're looking at today, and this man has precisely forecasted the peaks of numerous cycles. Now, in general, Michael Howell considers a lot longer time periods than either you or I would. Additionally, he indicates that we are nearing the end of current liquidity cycle, and that M2 will peak very soon. We're discussing early next year, which is essentially the time frame he is considering. Taking a look at all of the past business cycles and liquidity cycles and compiling all of that data, we can then examine how this cycle is currently unfolding. However, Michael Howell will delve further into this subject and offer a wealth of original insight and insightful knowledge that will fundamentally alter my outlook on how I will handle this XRP cycle ETFs and how everything will unfold. And I must stress that you will all be far better off at this time if you pay close attention and put the knowledge he is discussing in today's movie into practice, because we're encountering numerous, previously unheard of things. To find out what Michael Howell has to say, let's jump right into the video. The narrative revolves around liquidity, which is what propels markets and asset values upward. In general, it has nothing to do with the economics. In other words, there is no discernible business cycle in any significant global location, and economies have essentially lost their cycles. In actuality, economies have essentially stagnated for the majority of the past 18 months. Therefore, it is not really possible to attribute the rise in markets to either the business or economic cycles. It all comes down to how much liquidity is actually being injected into markets. Bitcoin is at a high because of this. Gold is therefore not far away. It's elevated. Our world is controlled by the need to fund governments, so it is likely that those specific assets will climb much higher in the future. You know, it's a world of financial domination. That is monetary policy's slave. Every day there is more and more proof that government spending is out of control everywhere in the world. Many governments face formidable obstacles in the future, and the only true way out of that is to either print money or come up with some kind of criminal technique to really raise money, like wealth taxes or something. You must carefully consider how to safeguard your fortune in this world. If that's the correct term, we're in a new abnormal. Debt and the requirement to refinance debt are the defining characteristics of this world. And that's the main thing. In other words, one of the points we have been highlighting over the past several years is the state of the financial markets today, rather than the need to raise additional funds for new projects or investment endeavors. The main focus of financial transactions is rolling over existing debt. Current debt rollovers likely account for 3/4 of all financial market activity today. The reality is that any loan you take out, no matter how big or small, must be refinanced when it's due. With an average duration of roughly 5 years, debt is likely to be constantly fluctuating in the market. And that's what we're actually witnessing. The issue is that the financial system's balance sheet capacity is required in order to roll over debt. Global liquidity is essentially that capability of the balance sheet. It's one way to quantify it. We can display a chart of the global liquidity cycle, which illustrates the regular movements in the cycle of flows, as well as the global liquidity cycle that we see. A debt refi cycle is what that is. In essence, it is moving at a similar rate or length as the debt's 5 to 6 year maturity, and you can notice large swings. The most recent low point occurred in October of 2022. We have essentially witnessed a significant increase in liquidity for the past 2.5 years, 2.5 years, and 2.75 years. Most likely, there is yet more to go, but as with all cycles, they come to an end. And that's the problem we need to start considering because, without a doubt, the financial system is in grave danger, and we're late in the cycle. Is that increasing asset values generate additional collateral, creating a kind of virtual cycle? You can borrow more money if you have more collateral. Liquidity is produced via borrowing capability. Asset prices rise as a result. You essentially receive a blow-off as a result. Furthermore, we are unquestionably in that sphere. How quickly are we traveling, I wonder? And are we traveling at a speed that is dangerous? Are we traveling too quickly? I believe that everyone genuinely wants to know the answer to that question, but no one can provide a precise response since, to be honest, so many new technologies, like as artificial intelligence and cryptocurrencies, are emerging at the forefront of all of our phases. How this will affect the cycles that we have already witnessed is unknown. Business cycles are essentially non-existent now, as Michael Howell explained. Since productivity is skyrocketing and the cost of getting goods and services is continuously declining at an accelerated rate, ISM isn't really as important as it once was. Therefore, if you wish to have access to all of that, be sure to click on those links and register. Verify that they are accessible in your area and read my complete disclaimer below. I appreciate you all viewing today's video, and I hope to see you all again soon. Peace out.